Hey everyone, it's been a while, but I wanted to come in and talk about another film I watched recently, which was The Trial, made in 1962 by Orson Welles. And yeah, it's a film that during it left me feeling disoriented, and by the end, strangely understood. It pulls you into a maze, one that slowly starts to feel familiar. If you've ever dealt with guilt, anxiety, or this feeling of being stuck in your own life. The film opens with a parable called The Man Before the Law. In that story, a man waits at a gate hoping to be allowed through. A guard then tells him that he cannot enter yet, so the man waits, and he continues on waiting until years pass. The man withers, never daring to push past and wondering why hasn't anyone come up to the gate while he was waiting. At the end of his life, the guard tells him that this gate was made specifically for him and that now it will be closed. The first time I saw it, I thought it would be how we sometimes can chase high goals so obsessively that we miss life itself. But after sitting with it a bit longer, I saw something deeper. It seems that the man never walks through the gate, not because he's not allowed to, but because he's convinced himself that he isn't worthy. It then becomes a story about guilt, about fear, and the way we hold ourselves back. This parable isn't only an introduction to the film, I think it's an explanation. Joseph K., the main character, wakes up to find he's being accused of crime, but no one tells him what this crime is. From this moment on, everything unravels. People act strangely, conversations feel rehearsed, almost like it's a stage, right? The world moves very fast, but without direction. There's this feeling that everyone knows something that Joseph doesn't, but they refuse to say it out loud. I thought it was a satire of bureaucracy, but it started to feel more like a reflection on how an anxious mind works. This feeling of being constantly watched, being judged, but never really understanding what for, hit close to home. There's a moment that stuck with me when we entered this room where Joseph works, and there's a sea of people, all with typewriters, kind of clacking away. Uh, and it's a very obscure process. It kind of reminded me how anxiety feels, like when you think about all those what ifs, right? When you start to rehearse outcomes and think, well, what if I say this and what if they say that? And that scene really encapsulates this feeling very well. The way Joseph interacts with women stood out too. There's this strange mix of attraction and suspicions. The women seem interested in him, but he never really fully trusts them, and they always seem to slip away. It started to feel like these weren't real women, but reflections on how Joseph perceives them, on his insecurities, and even how he sees himself. He's drawn to them, but he doesn't really believe he's worthy of a real connection. By viewing their interactions as transactional, like he does something for them and they do something for him, it makes them feel easier to control, right? Less emotionally threatening. What makes the world of the trial so haunting is how power works in it. It's everywhere and nowhere. Joseph can never really find the person in charge. Every official sends him to someone else. It's an endless ladder of authority where no one really has answers, but everyone enforces the rules. This system doesn't care about the innocence, but it thrives on obedience and confusion. And yet, Joseph doesn't fully rebel. He also doesn't submit. He kind of just keeps showing up and hoping for some kind of resolution that never really comes. And that's what makes Joseph a tragic figure. He refuses to lower himself and play the game the way that the advocate and the painter have, but he also refuses to walk away. He's caught between the pride and the fear, very much stuck like the man at the gate. The most powerful idea I took from the film was that Joseph doesn't really need the system to destroy him because, in a sense, he's already destroyed. He's destroyed by this idea that he needs the system to tell him who he is. His need for permission, for validation, for absolution is what breaks him. In that sense, the trial isn't really about law or justice, it's about identity, about what happens when you can't forgive yourself and you go out looking for someone else to decide your worth. Wells shoots this film like a nightmare. The angles are strange, the spaces are either cramped or endless. Nothing really feels still. Like I said before, you're really constantly moving, but you're never arriving somewhere. Nothing really gets done. And that's how Joseph feels. By the end, that's kind of how I felt too. And to end it off, for me, the trial wasn't really about the justice system, like I said. It's really about this feeling of being stuck in your own head, in your own life, waiting at a gate that you yourself built and waiting for someone else to open it for you, when in reality, you always had the power to walk through. So that's it. Those are my thoughts on the film. Let me know yours. I think it's one of those films, really complex. I think you can take many takeaways from it, so to say. So I'd love to hear yours. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching.